Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the second ever episode of Bannerman Banter. I'm Zach here with Sean, and we had a really fun live episode with a really engaging chat in our inaugural episode. Inaugural. That's not easy for anybody to say, even if you do have a degree in talking. The inaugural episode went really well, and in order to help us with our schedules, we do alternating live episodes and pre-recorded ones. So this one is going to be a pre-recorded one, but it's still going to be a lot of fun. We got some Halloween stuff to talk about. We've got some Star Wars stuff to talk about. We're going to be continuing our Gauntlet of Thrones discussion, which was introduced in the first episode. I'm going to quit saying the one with the I because obviously I'm not going to get it at any point tonight. The Gauntlet of Thrones discussion continues, and we're going to have a Flicks Picks element, which is something that we're going to do on these pre-recorded ones instead of doing our movie reviews, which is reserved for live episodes. But Sean, I don't know about you. I had a really fun time engaging with the chat on the live episodes. I'm really excited about this show, about this program, and I think as far as first time episodes go, that last one went really well, and I'm excited for this one now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I thought it went about as well as it could have. It was a lot of fun. Touched on many different topics. The audience was engaged. Loved that we dove back into the world of Westeros, which we will do again today. Talked Star Wars, which we'll do again today. Same with Halloween. But I'm also excited to talk a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean in this episode.
Yeah. We talked about how the old podcast Flixbusters had some elements in it that we're carrying over into this pod, and one of the things that was really popular amongst the both of us when we were doing Flixbusters was the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and so that is something that we're going to get to touch on here in just a moment. A reminder to go find all of our socials and follow us on all the different pages that are applicable. You can find us, I believe, on Facebook and Twitter X. I think we're working on an Instagram profile. All of the links should be in the description, so be sure to check that out. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you know when future episodes are live/published and all of that really good stuff. There's also going to be some bonus content that you'll be able to find on the Patreon, which is in the lower third, kind of in that general direction. So be sure to be on the lookout for that as well. But we're going to be kicking things off with a news and banter element here on this second episode of Bannerman Banter. So the first and probably one of the biggest questions that has come up recently in the world of Star Wars. We talked in the previous episode about Matt Smith being brought on to the Star Wars Starfighter, and several members of the chat, and then you yourself also said, Sean, that there's probably a decent chance that the level of excitement is higher for the Matt Smith, Ryan Gosling Starfighter movie than there is for the upcoming Mandalorian and Grogu. So our question to each other, and our question to those of you in the chat, if you want to leave a comment for us, please do. Is Mandalorian and Grogu in any kind of trouble? Are they setting themselves up for a potential box office flop because of the shooting schedule, because of the marketing, because the level of hype is not what it should be at this point? Are they in some kind of danger? Are they in trouble of becoming another Solo or something to that effect? It's really interesting to see where they've gone with this when it was supposed to be another season, and now they're putting an entire season's hopes and plots into a feature-length film.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a box office flop. I'm not saying it's going to be a massive success either, to be frank. I think it'll toe the line and probably just make profitability. But there's something about, at least with the way they've done Star Wars on Disney Plus for the most part, compared to a cinematic release, that doesn't have that feel so far as being a big cinematic event. And you're right, this was supposed to be season 4, and it turned into a movie. And well, they've had time to react to Ahsoka season 2 and, or pardon me, season 1 rather, and make some changes from there. Um, at the end of the day, like we see Zeb in the picture, and even though it's Pedro Pascal that does the voice, and we know he's on set for a little bit of the movie, so I expect that helmet is going to come off at some point. I think he filmed for, I want to say it was less than 10 days. Um, Sigourney Weaver's in the movie, but again, not a very big role. So there's like no cast announced for this thing for the most part, man, other than voice talent, really. And it, I don't know, there's something very Power Rangers feeling about that. And I know that's going to sound derogatory, but like we just spoke about Ryan Gosling, Mia Goth, Matt Smith, and other big name actors coming in. You are not going to see a bunch of additional people for this movie that's going to make, really bring it the stardom it needs. Now, I have heard a rumor that Timothy Olyphant might be in it as Cobb Vanth, and he brings some gravitas for sure. I'm a huge Olyphant fan. But I think, and that's not even a for sure thing, I think that's about as big as it will get.
Right.
So I'm just looking to go see a Star Wars movie in theaters and for it to be fun. But I also worry that this is just going to feel like a run of the mill thing and not something special.
Well, there are plenty of installations of the galaxy far, far away that have felt like middle of the road installations. But I think the thing that makes Mando and Grogu have this type of pressure put upon it is the fact that it's the first feature-length film since The Rise of Skywalker. And that left a pretty bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. They've been channeling a lot of their energy into the Disney Plus shows, and it had been extremely well reviewed. Mandalorian is one of the most popular installments of all of Disney Plus. It was like the thing that was there on day one when Disney Plus was first launched in order to get people to sign up for the streaming service. So it's been a part of the culture, a part of the sci-fi elements for years now. But there's still this pressure of, hey, can you wash some of the Rise of Skywalker's bad taste out of our mouth? Can you do anything new or original or different? Or can you bring in star power? What can you do to prove to us that this is a worthwhile endeavor? What are you going to do to show me that it's worth the energy and time and finances to go sit my butt down in a movie theater to watch this story unfold? It's almost like when you have those office meetings that could have been an email. This feels like the type of movie that should end up on Disney Plus, but they're expecting us to go see it on the big screen. But so far, we really haven't been given much to justify wanting us to go see it on a big screen, at least as of the time of this episode recording. There hasn't been a big trailer released. There hasn't been a big name drop other than Sigourney Weaver. So there's not a whole lot of tangible components that seem to point in the direction of, hey, this is worth my $15, $20, $25, not including gas, not including babysitter, not including this, that, and the other thing, in order to justify going out and seeing this on the big screen.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing Zeb and just Mando back and Grogu. But I haven't heard very much on the story to this thing, other than I know Jabba the Hutt's son's in it, and he's being voiced by oh my god, the dude from that chef show, Jeremy something, Jeremy Allen White, is that his name?
Alan White. Yeah, he's got 3 names. I keep wanting to say Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but I know that's not right.
He's in the Bear or whatever.
Yeah.
But I need more. I need to know that they've crafted an interesting story. And I'm not convinced they have. I'm not saying they haven't, but my excitement, like I'm way more excited about Starfighter and frankly even Ahsoka season 2 than I am this movie.
Well, there's a Game of Thrones alum in Ahsoka season 2 that we kind of are looking forward to. So I understand the logic behind that. Um, to answer the question that we've posed, I do think there is a little bit of cause for concern. I do think that we should be nervous about this film that is what 6 months away, 7 months away, and there really hasn't been much talked about it, at least in the circles that I'm a part of, and probably not so much in the circles that you're part of. And so, until we have reason to be, justifiably excited and fanboying over it, I think it's okay to have a little cause for pause until something like that actually happens. And yeah, it is Jeremy Allen White as Rota the Hutt, which is one of the wildest casting announcements I've ever heard. But other than that, there's just not a lot that we really know about this enough to be excited about. So, yes, to a certain extent, I feel like it's okay to be nervous about this until they give us a reason not to.
Yeah, I hope a trailer comes out and it blows us away. Gives us some story beats. Like this thing's not even that far. Like we're almost in September. So
Mm-hmm.
like 9 months. 9 months and there's a Star Wars
Nine
movie out.
nine months. Yeah, my math was not mathing there. My bad.
And we know almost nothing for the
Right.
most part.
Right.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'd have more faith if they followed some of the typical standard blockbuster Hollywood trends, and they just don't seem to be with this movie. And keep in mind, this movie was made on the cheap. This will be the cheapest made Star Wars movie in the Disney era by some stretch. I believe the budget was a shade under $100 million.
For the whole thing. Oh
Well,
wow.
obviously that doesn't include marketing, but in terms of production, yeah,
I mean, I guess with stagecraft, you can sometimes do more with less, but that is a little surprising. So,
they need to take stagecraft and punt that a million miles. And thankfully, it does sound like they did more on location stuff for this movie, and as well as Ahsoka season 2. They seem to have gotten the message from fans to, yeah, maybe being over reliant on stagecraft is not a good thing.
yeah, I mean, there are moments where I understand its use, but then there is such a thing as overuse. There is such a thing as quote unquote too much of a good thing. So, yeah, the message is there. I guess my big question now is what is the message going to be? What is the response going to be from Disney, from Lucasfilm, if this movie fails to break even, or if it does barely break even the way Solo did? Like, are they going to look at this as a failure from the fans that they did not deliver, or are they going to look at this themselves internally and be like, hey, we didn't deliver? I really don't know where the fingers are going to point if this movie does not turn a profit.
Well, the interesting thing will be to, like, um, story wise, is where does it line up, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because you have it and Ahsoka coming out in the same year, same timeline, really close to one another. The early rumors were this movie would lead into the Filoni movie, which now seems like it won't come out till about 2029. And my working theory is there's not going to be a Filoni movie. It's going to be a Filoni series. That's not Ahsoka season 3, but rather something else that culminates the story that they're telling here. We'll see what happens in regards to that. But, um, I we'll see, right? Ultimately, they got to be careful here. Hopefully, the events of this movie happen before the events of Ahsoka season 2 and not after. And why do I think that's important? I think Thrawn is going to pop up at the end of this thing. And not that I know that; it's just speculation. He is back in that part of the universe. So
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean anything with Thrawn in it, I'm on board with as a Star Wars fan. I loved the old books. I love the new books. I enjoyed him in Ahsoka. I feel like he was underutilized, but um, I like Thrawn. So anything with Thrawn in it gets a thumbs up from me. But we don't even have that yet. So there's a lot still left to find out. Maybe their trouble is they announced this movie too soon, and now we're waiting around for something to happen. And nothing has been worth sharing yet. Nothing has been worth telling yet. And so there's just a lot of impatient waiting around. I truly don't know, but something something needs to give in the next half year. By the end of the year, we need something to get us excited for 2026. So I don't know what that looks like, what form it'll take, when it'll happen. There's a lot of holidays between now and then. They could do something on Thanksgiving. They could do something over Christmas. There's a lot of those sporting events that take place around the holidays, and they'd like to do stuff during half times and whatever. So there's still opportunities, but those windows are slowly closing, and I don't want to see them go all the way closed without seeing something tangible to get me more excited.
Yeah, I would agree, man.
Okay, on to our next banter discussion, and this is one that's pretty near and dear to our hearts. Pirates of the Caribbean 6? Is that really a thing? Is that really going to happen? There are talks going around that Johnny Depp and other members of the original cast are eyeing a return to the Pirates franchise and getting ready to set sail again to help kind of reset the franchise. We got a kind of a soft reboot several years ago that just kind of fell on deaf ears because it just didn't have the right cast and the right chemistry. But Depp and Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, they're not exactly A-list actors that have super busy schedules nowadays, and so the opportunity to return to the high seas is definitely there, just based on their availability, based on their schedules. But is it something that should be done, and how well done is it going to end up becoming if this project moves forward?
Uh, yeah, I think it should be done. I'm not sure it should be done though as a soft relaunch, like what Jerry Bruckheimer was saying. I'd rather it be, I'd rather them commit to one or two films and be like, this is it. Not a soft relaunch, but like a proper ending because five is, I love Pirates of the Caribbean, but five is really bad. You can tell Johnny Depp is going through just a bunch of shit, which is lines up with the crap with that Amber Heard. The character, like the character's always had a comedic side to it, but in that movie, the character feels more like Jar Jar Binks during the movie than Jack Sparrow. And Bruckheimer claims that he thinks Johnny Depp will come back as long as the part is appropriately written.
Mm-hmm.
Orlando Bloom has echoed those thoughts, and I'm all for it. Find a good story, find a meaningful way to bring them back. I'm actually someone who liked Pirates 4, and I don't mind 3. We've talked about this before, right? 1 is a top 5 movie I'll never say no to,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 is one of the most underrated sequels of all time, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But ending it on that sour taste of what happens in 5 and just how he as a person is in that movie, I don't think that's the way to end it. And honestly, this franchise has no legs without him. No Johnny Depp, no Jack Sparrow, no franchise.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Like he is the pirate of the Caribbean. Without Sparrow, it doesn't work. He's got too much character. He's got too much charisma. Too much revolves around him for them to try to go with somebody else. I heard that was something that they were looking at doing, was just getting a new star but setting it in this world. And I was like, that's not gonna work. That's just not gonna do it. And so yes, it does need to be well written. I think it needs to be written well enough that Depp actually memorizes his lines, because I heard a lot of reports during Pirates 5 that he just had an earpiece in and his headpieces, his headdress was covering it, and people would feed the lines to him in a walkie-talkie and he would just deliver them in the moment. He did no memorization for that film. And there are times where it very much shows. Completely speculation, but if you go back and watch the film again through that lens, it makes a lot more sense. So it needs to be done well enough to justify his return, but also justify his commitment to the role, to being invested in what the movie is and what it's about. It can't just be another payday for these folks. It needs to be something that they actually enjoy and more or less want to be a part of. Because when they're invested, the audience gets more invested. So to me, that's what we really need, is a story that gets them invested so that we can get invested in this franchise again.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. You need something to push the narrative, put asses in seats, and I hope it happens. It sounds like it's full steam ahead, um, and we'll see where they end up. We might be talking about seeing a Pirates of the Caribbean movie come like 2027. So
That
I'm hoping.
may eventually be something that we try to determine as a flick or a bust on the live episodes, the flicks busters element, something that we only do on the live episodes. We have another segment just around the bend that we're going to be doing here instead on these pre-recorded episodes. But before we do that, we have to do our regular segment that we do on every episode in order to get to a final decision. It's called the Gauntlet of Thrones. We have asked ChatGPT to help us create a elimination contest where AI gives us episodes to debate, and then we decide which one moves on and which one goes home. We had to make a very tough decision in the previous episode to move on Battle of the Bastards and over the Red Sowing. Was it the Red Sowing? Yeah, I forgot the name of the episode already. My bad. Um, and it's no easier this time around with some pretty impactful stuff from the early seasons of Game of Thrones. You see the screen grab there. Old Gods and the New. Theon takes over Winterfell and has to figure out what it means to be a Greyjoy and what it means to be a leader. And the coup of the first season of House of the Dragon, the Green Council. After Viserys passes away, what are the next movements? What is the next shaking that takes place? And how do people respond to it in season 1, episode 9? Dude, what are your impressions of this second head-to-head matchup? We're getting some fire competition, some fiery debates right out the gate with this gauntlet.
So, just on the surface level, it's two very strong episodes. Obviously, the Old Gods and the New. Theon takes Sir Roderick's head. There's some other notable events that happen in that episode. But for me personally, I'm just going to get right into who I'm voting for. That Green Council episode from season 1 of House of the Dragon is an absolute banger, right from the geography of the entire episode to get him on the throne, to the sound design and the score and the realization that even though he doesn't want to be king, as it's happening, he realizes the power that's in his hands. Um, I I'm going House of the Dragon this time around over Game of Thrones.
Interesting.
Even though I think the Old Gods and the New is a good episode, I think the Green Council is one of the best episodes in House of the Dragon. Period.
Oh man. So I I am a little concerned, and this is where the banter portion of this show comes in. I'm a little concerned that perhaps recency bias has taken a little bit of a toll. Just a smidge. Because I too really like the Green Council, but I went back and did like a sentence by sentence description recapping some of the stuff that happens in the Old Gods and the New. And there are some big things that happen in this episode. Not just the beheading of Sir Roderick, but Rob's romance with Talisa gets underway in this episode. Tywin has his verbal banter with Arya at Harrenhal in this episode. Tyrion continues to play his games by sending Marcella off to Dorne after uncovering who the spy is in the previous episode. There are riots that take place in the streets in this episode, and Sansa almost gets raped and has to be rescued by the Hound. Beyond the Wall, there are missions that are going beyond the base, and they encounter Ygritte for the very first time. Daenerys has her dragons kidnapped and all of her servants killed in the end of the episode. And the episode finishes with her dragons, roaring as they're being taken off to the tower. There's a lot that happens in this episode, a lot more than just Roderick losing his head. But you're learning about Winterfell being exposed while Robb is off fighting a war. You're learning more about Tywin and honestly learning more about Arya in this episode. You're seeing Tyrion continue to move pawns and move parts while trying to keep stability in King's Landing. There's introductions to big characters like Ygritte, who play a big part in Jon's development. And then Daenerys loses basically a part of her identity at the end of the episode. So I guess we need to find the tiebreakers, because my vote is for the old gods and the new. There's just too much happening in that episode to ignore all of the impact that it has. So I'm voting for one, you're voting for the other. We've hit our first impasse. How do we settle this?
Well, in future episodes, we will be relying on the live audience. In this one, I've reached out to two different people. It wasn't going to be three different people, but those two people ended up having a vote on the same one. And I knew if you and I were split, that if those two voted for the same person, it would, or same episode rather, it would decide it. I will say this for the old gods and the new. My favorite part of that episode is not the beheading. It's not the stuff with Daenerys. It's not Ygritte escaping Jon there and making him look like a bit of an idiot. It's the Arya and Tywin stuff going back
I
and
love
forth,
it.
which is,
I love it.
those few episodes that we get that for are, it really kind of shows Tywin in a little bit of a different light. And I almost feel like that might have been Tywin when he was a younger man dealing with Jaime and Cersei, not so much Tyrion, but the back and forth between them is great. However, for me personally, one of the reasons I went with the Green Council is it is the first, to my knowledge, ever episode of Westeros that we get that is completely linear and just follows one storyline. You start and you finish, and we never go anywhere else. It is just there, just at the Red Keep. And I love the way that was constructed, because that's not something you're used to from Game of Thrones, nor is it something I would ever want them to only do, because that gets away from the Game of Thrones and Westeros DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But I reached out to Ryan and to Jade today, and both of them had the Green Council. Now, you might be right. That might be recency bias. I have seen the Green Council before I've seen the Old Gods and New. That being said, I would have seen the Old Gods and New probably 2 or 3 months before I seen the Green Council for the second time, because I had gone through a Game of Thrones rewatch before season 2 of House of the Dragon.
Okay, well, it's decided then. The old gods and the new is eliminated, and the Green Council is moving on. So we've got one episode from House of the Dragon advancing to the next round, and one episode from Game of Thrones that has advanced to the next round in these first 2 episodes. And there are a lot more episodes left to debate. Let us know in the comments, and let us know on social media what you would have voted for. Eventually, like Sean said, we're going to leave it up to some of our viewers and some of our fans. The more we continue to grow and the more input we get, the quicker we'll be able to ask you for your opinion on these things, rather than just have to ask our staff. We appreciate their input. Obviously, Ryan and Jade are big parts of what we do here, among some other really awesome people. Like Tommy B, like Dustin, like Randy. There's a lot of people that contribute to this program, so we appreciate all of them, but we also want to include you as a viewer, you as a listener as well at some point. So let us know what you would have voted for, and one of these days we'll figure out a way to recirculate stuff that may have been eliminated, where if you select to revive it, we may bring it back and have it pitted against something else other than the Green Council and see if it finds its way further than it did here. But for now, the Green Council is moving on. All right, one of our last things to talk about here, and it's pretty straightforward, but it's also going to be pretty difficult. Our Flicks Picks element here on these pre-recorded sessions. This is all Disney Plus original content, and only 3 can stay. There's 10 total programs, 3 will stick around, and 7 get eliminated from existence entirely. This is not an easy task. I am really, really not happy with you, Sean. I gotta be honest. But it's part of the fun. So y'all comment which ones you're keeping while we try to sort all of this out. Have you narrowed your 3 down? Because I think I'm only down to 4.
So, yeah, I have, but 2 of mine were easy. Mine came down to that last spot where I had 3 different shows battling for the last spot on the lifeboats getting off the Titanic.
Yep.
And I'll lead it off to give you some more time because I know you're just seeing this graphic, I believe. But Andor automatic. They're the women and children. They're getting the first spot on the lifeboat, escaping the Titanic, and that's going nowhere. And even though I thought The Mandalorian Season 3 was a massive fall off in quality compared to the first 2 seasons, those first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian are something special and unique, and really feel like they were on the right track there with the direction they were going. So I had Mando as my second pick. But then it came down to, well, Obi-Wan's my favorite character, and I do think Ewan McGregor's performance in that series is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Ewan does nothing wrong. I even like the story they tell. What I don't like is the cheap budget, how cheap it looks, and like it looks really bad at times. Right. Fan film level bad at times, unfortunately. But then it's like, well, can I erase Ewan's performance? But would my Obi-Wan fandom hat let me do that? And then Skeleton Crew, I thought was fantastic as a standalone story. I thought John Watts did a great job on that. There was a couple episodes that I thought were misses, but I liked the kid cast, and I thought Jude Law was good. I really enjoyed it. And then the last one was Ahsoka, and I gave the last spot on the lifeboat to Ahsoka simply for what it sets up. I'm a Clone Wars guy. I love Clone Wars. You end that season with by the way, we're doing the Mortis stuff. We're going to give you a conclusion on that. I thought Thrawn, seeing him in live action was cool, but not nearly enough. We basically were just teased with him. I thought Hayden Christensen, the stuff that he was given in this was very good. I have a problem with the costume design in season 1 of that show. I think it's awful. And clearly they did too, because they fired the person and hired someone else for season 2. But man, we just did a watch party, man, 2 different ones for the first and second episodes of Ahsoka. I really haven't seen this show in its entirety since it first aired. And that intro scene with Ray Stevenson as Balin again reminded me how many layers that character has and how incredible he was in that role. And the score from Kevin Kiner. As much as I liked Skeleton Crew and as much as I didn't want to eliminate Obi-Wan, I had to give Ahsoka the last spot simply on what it still can become.
So this is interesting. Ahsoka was one of my finalists as well. Skeleton Crew was one of my finalists as well. The Bad Batch was one of my finalists because it completed its story. It was able to tell everything that it wanted to in its entirety. And I appreciated that. There were still some questions at the end of The Acolyte. There were still some questions at the end of Book of Boba Fett. Hell, there was even more story that could have been told if Kenobi had been, given a better budget and been better received. They might have done a second part of that. Um, so there were a lot of stories out here that had incomplete finishes or things that felt incomplete. And uh, Ahsoka is not complete yet. It hasn't told its whole story yet. Andor has told its whole story. Andor is a keeper, 100%. Um, and then I got Disney Plus because I wanted to see The Mandalorian. So Mandalorian is safe as well. I thought, like you, the first 2 seasons were excellent. Third season was all right, but in spite of it being incomplete, it still has a lot of really great things in it that I really love. So for me, it also kind of came down to Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew and the Bad Batch. But Ahsoka did not make it for me because it's incomplete. And I want to see what they do with season 2. If they give it a season 3, I want to be able to judge it for its entirety. Whereas I don't think they're doing another season of Skeleton Crew. I think it's a one and done. And I think Bad Batch, they're not going to be rehashing more Clone Wars era stuff. I think I'm going to give the nod to Skeleton Crew. I think that would be something I would be satisfied watching again, having those adventures again, solving those mysteries, enjoying the swashbuckling pirates, having lovable characters and a show that's well written, whimsical, well acted, and complete. It tells the whole story it wants to tell in a rather satisfying manner. And so, yeah, I think Skeleton Crew is going to be the last one that I save. So it'll be Andor, Mando, and Skeleton Crew for me.
I almost unmuted myself on the wrong one. Multi-devices going on once here. Skeleton Crew, I really did enjoy. And Bad Batch, I thought it started well in season 1, fell off. I didn't like season 2 at all, to a point where I needed my buddy Ian to convince me to give season 3 a shot. And I was glad I gave season 3 a shot because I thought season 3 was really well done, and the animation got better as well on top of the story. And doing the Mount Tantus stuff, obviously a different take on it, was interesting. I don't know. I didn't have it at the level of some of the other ones. And I wanted Acolyte to be like the Game of Thrones of Star Wars, and
that didn't happen.
Maybe it's the Temu version of Game of Thrones of Star Wars. But so interesting. We agreed on 2 of the 3, but ultimately, no, you didn't have Mando.
No, I did have Mando.
Again?
I did have Mando. I've got Andor, Mando, and Skeleton Crew.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we had 2 of the same ones, and I think that's okay. Let us know in the comment section below, though, the 3 that you would keep. I think we can get a healthy conversation going about this one. It's tough, though. I had an easy time with the first 2, and then I had a hell of a time with that last one.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else you want to add on the Flix Pix stuff, man? Should we maybe even allow the audience that's watching it and that follows us on socials to give suggestions on Flix Pix topics for the future?
We can. I was pausing so that you could do your thing later. Was that not?
I didn't know that. I didn't know if you had anything else to add there. But yeah, no, that's fine. You can get to the wrap up, and I'll edit that part out.
Okay.
Let me make a note of it.
Well, it was slightly more abbreviated than the previous episode, but still a pretty jam-packed episode of Bannerman Banter for you all here. Really, really great stuff that we were able to talk about on this one, and I'm really looking forward to our next live episode. Be sure to hit follow on the channel here so that you get alerts for when the Mask of Fear goes live on Tuesdays, for any other content that gets published here, for the next live episode of Bannerman Banter that will be not too far away. But I think for the most part, we covered all the bases we needed to for this one. Sean, what do you say?
Yeah, man, another solid episode. 2 in the bank now, and looking forward to the third one.
Be sure to follow us on all the socials. The links are in the descriptions, and be sure to let us know what kind of discussion topics you want for Flixbusters, what kind of things we should do for our Flix Picks elements, what other kind of news topics you want us to try to cover here. We are all about you, the viewer, and then we just hop on here and banter about it. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bannerman Banter. For Sean, I'm Zach, and we'll see you all next time for even more banter on the flip. Until then, see you later.